Can someone please explain to me why Rachel Dawes is so hated? I mean, I kind of get it. Out of all the characters in the Dark Knight trilogy, she isn't really all that special. This is a series with vigilantes, ninjas, whatever the hell Bane is, homicidal clowns. So where does that leave Rachel? What exactly does she do again? She's an assistant district attorney? Cool. I kid, of course. I'm actually a fan of Rachel Dawes. Keep in mind, I don't know a lot about the comics, so I can't really speak on Rachel's inclusion to the overall Batman mythos, but I can shine a light on why I think she's an underrated character and not as one-dimensional as some make her out to be. Played by two different actresses over the course of 2 movies, she's definitely one of the lesser beloved characters in Nolan's Batman trilogy. On one side, people say she serves as nothing but a damsel in distress for Batman to rescue, and on the other side, people say that she was a badly written stick in the mud that didn't give our boy Bruce the time of day. It's true that with most of his movies, Nolan has these big ideas and he wants the viewer to know he has these big ideas, and so he often uses his characters as mouthpieces to express them. While it can sometimes be ridiculous enough to the point of parody, I'm actually okay with his writing style as it does encourage me to think about these concepts, and in the case of Rachel Dawes in Dark Knight and Batman Begins, I think it works just fine. And it's also why I'm making this video to begin with. Rachel isn't a bad character, she's just different from the standard love interest because she isn't really a love interest at all. Think about all of the bland love stories we've had over the decades where the leading lad and the leading lady get together at the end because, well, that's just how movies work. But these movies weren't about romance, they never were. They were about the exploration into the themes and messages of a pop culture icon. Rachel's there to teach Bruce about what true justice is, and for that is vital to the plot. She was written to be arm candy, as much as Alfred was. Nolan dove deeper into Batman's origin than any director before him, which made his story that much more impactful. We all know about his parents getting murdered, but he didn't just go from being a pampered rich kid to an accomplished martial artist without anything happening in between. In Batman Begins, you actually got to watch his character evolve. After his parents died, Bruce was angry, bitter, disillusioned with the world and its justice system. The desire for vengeance led him to near murder. Yes, it is the man that killed his parents, but Bruce would have ended up restoring everything he had if he'd been successful. I mean, do you see how many cameras there are in this scene? He probably would have gone to prison for life. When Chill is assassinated on behalf of Carmine Falcone, it's a blessing in disguise because it gives Bruce time to reevaluate his life's goal and purpose. Being his friend from childhood, Rachel knows that Bruce has the right to be angry. But when anger reaches the point that you push yourself away from those who love you and start obsessing over killing the person that ruined your life, that's the moment that someone better step in. In this scene, Rachel isn't being insensitive to Bruce's pain. In all the scenes before this, she's very sympathetic to the situation. She isn't just being self-righteous for the sake of it. She's trying to veer him off a very dangerous path. It's a tough love moment that is completely necessary. It's what sets the plot into motion and the push that inspires Bruce to confront Falcone and leave Gotham. But most importantly, it's the scene that made him throw away his gun and swear off killing. When Bruce returns to Gotham 7 years later, the first scene of him and Rachel meeting again gives us this very iconic line.
It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
At this point, Rachel doesn't know he's Batman. She doesn't know what he's been doing this whole time and what he's been preparing for. So, from her perspective, all she sees is a very shallow replacement for the person she once knew. Someone who might not be so angry anymore, but doesn't look like he cares much about anything important. Not to mention, they left each other on a very sour note, but Bruce didn't even tell her he'd come back and she had to find out from her boss.
You, seen him yet?
Who?
Wade. It's been all over the news. He's back.
In Rachel's eyes, even though Bruce said he's changed, he hasn't done anything to show her he has. When she does end up finding out he's Batman, she apologises for what she said all those years ago, which shows character growth. Instead of the classic hero getting the girl ending, Nolan takes a different route. He is actually able to not only see when two characters don't have romantic chemistry, but doesn't force them into a romance anyway. They are both fundamentally different people than when they were kids, and they're just not right for each other. And that's okay. They can still be friends, just not in love. he's not what she needs and she's not what he needs. It doesn't have to make perfect sense, but it's better than having a forced romantic subplot purely there so the audience will have a love story.
Then I found out about your mask.
I still don't know what Rachel means in her monologue at the end. Maybe Nolan and Goya were trying to reinforce the common idea that Batman is his true self and Bruce Wayne is the persona, which doesn't really fit with the character they set up in this movie. If Bruce's real mask is his face, then why does he want to quit being Batman? Just to be with Rachel? This speech suggests that Rachel was maybe in love with Bruce before, so was this setting it up for them to be together, or did Nolan always plan to kill her? This segues us into the next movie. The Dark Knight improved on everything established in Batman Begins. The world is much more grounded, but its fantastical elements don't stick out as unreasonable, and even though the movies look so different, they still feel connected. I think Rachel and Harvey's relationship was also a very good addition. It was believable, and they had genuine chemistry. It also made a lot of sense for the characters to be attracted to one another, because they do share a lot of attributes. Harvey isn't afraid of who he is any more than Bruce. But Harvey doesn't use another face to speak his ideals, instead issuing them loud and clear. This isn't me saying that Harvey Dent is more heroic than Batman. I'm just saying that I could see why Rachel would fall in love with him, since she's someone who admires openness and honesty. Rachel and Harvey understand each other in a much deeper way because in most cases they are unsuited for the roles they're pushed into. Rachel doesn't fit into Bruce Wayne's world any more than Harvey fits into a world of sleazy politicians. They're both fish out of water in that sense and so find common ground together. That's why her relationship with Bruce hardly even got off the ground. He's not being himself, and it's very hard to be in a relationship with someone that pretends to be someone else half the time. Rachel's not a bad person for not wanting to deal with that. It just means she's simply not the right fit for him. This article on sci-fi.com suggests that Bruce insists he's in love with Rachel more than he actually is. And I would say that I agree. You could interpret Rachel as just another part of Bruce's past that ends up differently to how he wanted it. He probably did expect them to get married one day, another reason why her death hit him so hard. Batman is supposed to be this incorruptible symbol, but makes a very human decision when he's forced to choose between his oldest friend and the only hope the city has left. After it's revealed the Joker switched the addresses, Bruce's choice to save Rachel ironically and tragically results in her death. Since she didn't know about the switch, I've seen it suggested that maybe Rachel thought Bruce didn't save her because he read the letter. That's pretty dark though, and who knows if that was even intended, but it is still something to think about to make the scene hit even harder. I mean, look at this. In the original script, he even tries to justify the decision to himself, saying that Harvey knew what he was in for. Imagine if they kept that. You're harsher than I thought you were, Nolan. But think about how her death impacted Harvey. He didn't just lose his girlfriend and colleague, he lost his entire family. The only thing keeping him from going crazy in this mess of a city, in which half the time is relying solely on him to protect it. We see how much Rachel meant to Harvey in his transition into Two-Face. How someone who used to be so virtuous and trustworthy could become this directionless monster who relied on nothing but the flip of a coin to decide whether or not to end someone's life. Harvey lost half of himself, both literally and figuratively. Rachel's inclusion gives us some unique character dynamics that really elevate the storytelling in my book. First, she's built up as a love interest for Bruce, and then for a future supervillain. And then, you know. In the first movie, Alfred tried to tell Bruce that to make his crusade personal was to cease being a symbol of good and just become another vigilante.
You can't be personal, or you're just a vigilante.
He lectures him about this after he nearly gets caught by the police trying to rescue Rachel, who had just been poisoned by Scarecrow's fear toxin. If Bruce had taken this lesson to heart, he would have known that the right thing to do would have been to save Harvey, and then would have ended up accidentally saving Rachel instead. Although, good luck explaining that to her. But Bruce does eventually learn to put his duty before personal vendettas. At the end of The Dark Knight, he sacrifices Batman, his true self, in order for Gotham to have a martyr, someone to rally behind. And with the Dent Act, it works. For a while. To end this video, I just want to leave you guys with some food for thought. Do you remember what the Joker said when Batman and Gordon were rushing to rescue Rachel and Dent? To jog your memory, Stevens, this guy right here, is supposed to be guarding the Joker in the interrogation room, and the Joker tells him this.
In their last moments, people show you who they really are.
He even proves this himself later. After Batman throws him off a building almost to a certain death, he goes down laughing, Same goes for Rachel in this scene. When she finds out that she is definitely going to die because, oh my god, Bruce came for Harvey and not her, she's not angry. She doesn't waste her last moments begging for life. She calms herself, accepts death, and doesn't even get the dignity of last words. Rachel shows that she's an incredibly brave person in each movie she appears in. In the first movie, she rescues that little boy and protects him from the Scarecrow and a bunch of escaped convicts. And in The Dark Knight, she's the only one in the entire fundraiser that stands up to the Joker. All of that is why I believe Rachel was a brave person, a well-written character, and a strong inclusion to the trilogy. I thought the performances from both the actresses fit the movie they were in, and they did a great job. Honestly, everyone in this series was perfectly cast. With all that being said, what do you think about Rachel Dawes? Do you like her? Do you dislike her? I'd love to hear your opinion, especially if it's the same as mine. Heck, why not even write a comment? Anyway, see you all next time, and thanks for watching.